Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the one and only THL Set Review, where we bring you the hottest, can we say hottest? Yeah, the hottest of takes from the THL community on some of the cards that are going to be coming in the next expansion that everyone's looking forward to, Murder at Castle Nathria. So I am Lotus Knight, one of your hosts for tonight, and I am joined by some of the best hosts, casters, or whatever you want to call them in THL. Right now, we have top left, one of the board members, unfortunately not a winner in this week's Family Feud, but had some great scenes. Based Inc. Based, how are you doing?
Great. And I would like to say 2 out of 3 family feuds I did win. So
Nice. Hey, that's a lot,
it's a lot considering there's 3 of them.
right? Second person who the video is wrong, but I'm fixing it now. In the meanwhile, we have the one and only Nails. Nails, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Here to deliver some takes that will they're moderately hot.
Nice.
Okay, why am I seeing Danka's dad talking, but Nails was the one addressed?
Well, we wanted to ask Danka's dad how he was doing twice. So, Danka's dad, how are you doing tonight? I think you're muted.
There we go. Little audio hitch there, but yeah, good to be here. Little more pressure now because, now I have my real name under me, so I can't be quite as hot with the takes as I would have been when it said Nails. But yeah, gonna be a fun review.
For sure. I'm very excited for this one as always. And last but not least, my one of my partners from Heart Center, we have Super Chicken. Chicken, how are you?
Great, thanks.
We have a lot tonight. Set reviews, our shows. We almost always bust our time limits, so we're going to go fast and hop right in to our first question. So, reminder: the way our set review works is we're going to consider 3 different categories, and everyone is going to present 2 cards for that category. We'll look at strong cards that we'll see play. We'll look at overrated and underrated cards, and then we'll have 3 quick rounds of special questions for everyone. So, let's start with our first set of the night, strong cards that we'll see play, aka our Dardar cards. And to tell us about our first Dardar card of the night, we have Based Inc. Based, take it away.
So we're starting off with Dispose of Evidence, the new Demon Hunter card. Absolutely incredible. 0 mana cards are always really strong. 0 mana remove a thing is quite strong. I do not care about returning a card. We got ways to return it back. And we have played 0 mana kill a thing before, even if when it was discarding cards. So I'm super happy to play that card in a lot of Demon Hunters as long as we have that way to refresh it. But it's going to be really strong for him.
That's true. I think this is an interesting card. I'll open to. Does anyone want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I think like in the kind of aggro DH deck this fits into, this is kind of just 0 mana Fury, and then also it's like rank 2 Fury the whole time. So yeah, definitely agree that this card is really strong and will definitely be one of the core cards of aggro DH if the deck is quite good.
Yeah, great with the magnifying glaive too. It just gets in there.
I'm concerned that it's not that it does have the downside if you don't find the glaive, but it's obviously incredible if you have the glaive. So I do expect that to be at least worth trying out. I'm a little bit more hesitant on it. Like I'm not huge on aggro DH, but I think it has potential at least.
I'm surprised you didn't say the glaive instead, because the glaive looks so good to me.
Yeah, I think the glaive carries the deck, but space cards. So.
Yeah, Glaive is also really strong. I think that this one is something that you can consider like in other things.
Sure.
Like one of the things I don't think gets noticed is it can help you with outcasting things. Like Jace could get stuck in the far left, and you're like, okay, let's just send Jace back. Now I can outcast again, which is much less relevant now that Skull is not in standard, but it isn't completely dead. Yeah, I'm just like kind of comparing it to OG Soulfire when you don't have like a way to mitigate the downside, which is still a fine card. We would likely play Soulfire in some decks still.
In Warlock decks?
And yeah,
Yeah.
and Warlock decks. But
Because
yeah,
like
different
we
class.
don't have life tap.
I mean, we
Not
don't
even a-
really life tap a ton in Warlock anymore, really. Like that's why they've been really struggling with draws because they don't have, the card we'll talk about later yet, and they didn't have backfire anymore. Like life tap is not as powerful as it used to be. But yeah, I do see what you're saying
Hmm. Now, any final comments anyone want to say about disposal of evidence before we move to our second card of the night? All right, Nails, take it away.
Okay, my first strong card is Vile Library. It is the location for Warlock, and it has it just gives a lot of stats to your board. Like being able to preemptively set it up is and just like Vile Library into Fiendish Swarm on turn 2 and 3 makes a 6/6 and 3/1/1s. And that's just oppressive. Decks can't deal with that right now. So, and it just kind of like you can have two of them on the board, and it just makes any like the existence of this card means that you're not allowed to leave a Warlock minion up
Hmm.
later in the game. It's just so many stats, and like really abuses the preloading of stats to just make a swing turn that it doesn't
Hmm.
respond to the opponent's board. It just gives them way too many numbers. It gives you way too many numbers.
It's so easy for this card to give like +2/+2 or +3/+3. Like so easy, and it does it twice.
+5/+5 is pretty
Yeah,
easy too.
+5/+5 on
Yeah,
curve.
yeah. So instead of going to anyone for a second opinion on this card, I think there's a card that perfectly pairs with this one for us to talk about the two as a package. So, Baze, why don't you tell us about our second card?
there. We got impending. What's it called exactly? Sheet. Impending catastrophe. This is what is going to make Warlock go. Draw a stupid amount of cards. You can put this into just like um, other decks with small imp packages. The spells that create imps, just to draw a ton of cards, make your rods work again. Um, this is the future of drawing cards for Warlock. It is crazy the amount of cards you can draw. 5, pretty easily. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
cram sessions, um, and spell damage is harder to come by than imps.
That's true. I think I'll open to everyone here to talk about these cards and honestly about Imp Warlock as a whole. So just to
Well,
call someone at random for an opinion here, Chicken, tell me what you think about Imp Warlock.
Yeah, I like that base touched on like the fact that this is not only like this isn't just an imp warlock card, this is just a warlock card. That probably just goes in every warlock deck this expansion. It's like who is it like Justin Time Dank's dad and I were like looking at some slower warlocks with the rod earlier today, and it's like very very easy to put in like a small imp package with this card and just have obscenely efficient draw, especially with like when you're running like a card like the Tamsin hero already that summons
Mm-hmm.
imps, like with the battle cry and the hero power, like you just always have imps. It's just so efficient. It's just absurd card draw.
I didn't actually realize that Tamsin Hero summoned imps.
Yeah, it's imps.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that summon imps that you wouldn't at first think they do.
There's also the 2
Yeah,
mana
that's powerful.
card that shuffles seeds into your deck.
Mm. Can you name that card?
No,
So-
Seeds of Destruction.
That's what it's
Easy.
called. Wow. Okay.
it's not a good card. I don't think
I
you
don't
want
think
to play it, but it's fair.
I don't think any card has cost me more legend ranks than Seeds of Destruction. So I know that one by heart.
Mhm.
Dankazad, any thoughts you want to share about Imp Warlock or any of these 2 cards?
Yeah, so I think Chicken hit a lot of it, but with Vile Library, one thing about that I think is really funny is that it's not even give an imp +1/+1, it's give a friendly minion +1/+1. So if you're in some sort of like board-based mirror, you can play a card like Samuro, and now Warlock has a way to gas that up. You get this huge Samuro that clears the board, puts on so much pressure. Like this is, an aggro deck or a deck that can put a lot on the board while also playing control tools. And if you have that, slow warlock deck we were talking about, that slow deck can still play that 9/9 of stats on turn 3 that Nails mentioned and just kill you. It's This package is really, really absurd. And yeah, I'm excited to try it out and see what sticks on Tuesday.
Anyone else wants to talk about these 2 cards or Imp Warlock before we move on to our next card? All right. So our next card here is one of the weirdest ones I think in this list because it's mostly a tech card. Tell us about that, Dankastad.
All right. We have the Forensic Duster coming in next. So I think that relatively speaking, I'm alone on rating this card this highly, but I think this is probably one of the best neutral cards in the set, and I think it really shakes things up. We had Cult Neophyte before that you would play to shut down your opponent's reactive turns, tax them, slow them down, make it so that they can't get their combo off, play their removal, play their skull. And now we have Forensic Duster that instead does this their proactive turns. So while Neophyte you would use to either protect your board or delay, the slow deck, here Forensic Duster is delaying the aggro deck. And the 2 classes that I've picked out to use this card really well are Druid and Shaman. I think that Alignment Druid will run Forensic Duster just as a card that they can play before alignment to slow down their opponent's development, and after alignment to make it so that their opponent has an even harder time answering Druid's big threats. And then Shaman can play this card to sort of be just another way to curtail early board pressure alongside Schooling, Windchill, Sleepbreaker. And also, this battle cry can be recurred with Bran in the late game and can turn off late game engines like Mordresh, post alignment boards from Druid. Like, I think that the Duster just has a lot going for it
Mm-hmm.
for these sort of mid rangey decks that, just need a little bit of time to get to the point where they take over the game.
That's fair. I do think this card can be a good 38 card for Renathal. Um, Nails, what do you think about the Forensic Duster?
So you said that it was like a stall card, and I don't really view it as that. I kind of view it as I when I thought about the card, I've just envisioned it as performing a neophyte type role um, in more aggressive decks, uh, like stalling out uh, Krakatoa, Snowfall Guardian, or just playing it to slow your opponent down in an aggro mirror, and like using it to get tempo. I think that the stall options for it are going to be less effective. I think that it might appear in Alignment Druid, because you can just you can play this card and Okani for spell and then realign, and then they don't get to play cards, and then you win the game. I think that type of effect is powerful, but I don't think that it's that efficient as like a stall tool against aggro, because aggro is going to be if you can like most aggro decks are going to be playing well imps, but aside from that, they're going to be playing like uh, they're going to be playing minions before it comes down a lot of the time, and playing a spider tank doesn't help you recover if you're losing board. It like helps you snowball an advantage. So yeah, I think it's going to be used in a similar uh, vein as Neophyte most often. Like it's a very flexible card, and so it'll have some uses
Mm-hmm.
in just like many circumstances. And dropping a spider tank on 3 and taxing their mana is certainly not bad. But um,
Fair.
yeah,
Any further opinions on the Forensic Duster? All right. So now we're going to what, in my opinion, is one of the top 3 cards in the set, if not the number one. Chicken, take it away.
Yeah, now I get to talk about maybe my favorite card from the set. It's Pelagos. Um, so once upon a time there was a card in Saviors of Doom that was a 4 mana 2/7
Oh God.
called High Priest Amet. And I think this card is kind of similar. It's a different effect. I think maybe not as strong as Amet was in that deck. But this card is really really strong, especially with like obvious synergy with like wigs and the location. Just
Mm-hmm.
like coining location out on 2 and then playing this on 3 and then it going to a 3 mana 7/7 with like the persistent effect. Just
It,
insane. It's like super strong like late game with wigs, like just playing this on like the same radiant elemental turn and just like basically blessing literally everything. um it just seems really really absurd to me.
Baze, did you want to say something?
that's not how the location works, though, is it?
I don't think it works with the location. It works with spells.
Oh, it's when you cast the spell. Okay, so it doesn't work with the location, but it does work with wigs.
Yeah, still very strong.
Oh, I forgot to mention the best application, which is Shadow Word Devour.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
that's a scary one. Just eats all the imps and makes 11/11.
yep.
Um, before I ask more about Pelagos, I think something, Chicken, I'll ask you here is this is the last priest card that we're talking about tonight and the only priest card. So, how is priest looking going into the new set?
Um, I hope like 40 card Arena Priest is not playable because I find the deck. Sorry, Dankestad, but the deck is really boring, really boring. I don't know. I've always enjoyed like tempo priest style decks like Naga Priest or like Inner Fire Priest in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited. I think Naga Priest just got a lot stronger. I think there's some potential for a non Naga like tempo priest to be playable. Something that's something potentially in like the Shadow Priest variety or some combination of that. Not entirely sure, but
Void
I
Touch
think like
Attendant is a hell of a card.
what'd you say?
Void Touch Attendant is a hell of a card.
Yeah, I mean Void Touch Attendant is still on standard. Like that card just completely carries aggro priest. So with maybe some more support guards, there could be some like aggro tempo priest aside
Mm-hmm.
from Naga priest that's viable. But yeah, we'll have to see.
Um, so anyone wants to add more about Pelagos and the general state of priest? Dankestad, since you were called out by Chicken, I'll ask you, what do you think priest is going to look like after the day after tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tempo deck. I think for those of you who don't know, I am also pretty bored by the Quest Priest. I think it has applications, but I don't like playing it either. But I am going to be much more excited to play Naga Wig, Naga Wig, Naga Wig with Pelagos and kill my opponent on like turn 6. So I think it's just a little bit awkward because from talking about the cards with others earlier, it seems just like the Naga package with Pelagos is a little bit better than the other new cards. But both paths lead you to a very strong priest deck. So priest is going to have a lot of stats very quickly, and unless you have hard removal, it's going to be difficult to answer them.
Any further comments about Priest that anyone wants to add here?
They did get pretty insane boards there if you can use it.
It's true. But that's more for Quest Priest, right?
Some sort of controlling priest that right now would be quest priest, so it makes me hesitant to say it's going to be strong.
Based, it's not the
It-
Steel Priest. It's not a
Yeah,
Identity Thief.
yeah, identity thief. I am willing to give the priest my social. I don't care.
What are they going to do with it? What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, what's the worst? They can reduce it by 2. Oh no.
Like, then it's not even your social anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They have nothing.
Now, moving on to our next card. Dankistat, why don't you tell us our first rogue card of this review?
So there are other rogue cards that I expected people to talk about, and I just wanted to make sure we hit on this one. It is Serrated Bone Spike. So Rogue has once again gotten a 2 mana, deal 3 damage spell, and I want to make it clear that this isn't just like Tooth of Nefarian. The most important application of this card is that it's preparation for non spells. So if you can pair this up with prep, you can cheat some threats into play a little bit earlier than you should, and it's very, very strong. If you could get a Krakatoa on turn 3 or 4, for example, you can get a lot of damage in here. Or the new Rogue Legendary that you may hear about later in the show, getting a preparation and that and a coin on, just like early game, you can even do it turn 1. Or if you are going second, your opponent plays a 1-drop, you go coin preparation, bone spike, new card, and all of a sudden you have a 3/4, a 4/3 weapon. You've killed their minion. Oof. It's the bone spike is just a generally good card, even if you're not hitting the circumstance. It's kind of like a backstab where you don't even have to have a damaged minion, you just have to hit something and kill it. And sometimes it will just lead to absurd blowouts. And I like cards that sometimes let me win the game and don't ask much of me at all.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we go into Serrated Bone Spike, I think there's a card that, as Dankistat said, fits perfectly with this. So, Chicken, why don't you tell us about that card?
Okay, here's my actual favorite card in the set. This card is like this is unlike any card I've ever seen before. This is Necrolord Draka. I mean, just what an insane card. Like why does that have 3 durability? Whose idea was that? I don't know. It just seems so crazy to me. Like I saw some of the theory crafting streams, and like someone got like a 17/3 weapon dropped on them on like turn 5 or something like that.
It was a
Um
Wow.
17/3 on turn 5.
yeah, it was just
51 damage weapon on turn 5.
yeah, just absurd stuff. And like not only did they just develop the weapon, they also like basically developed like 5 other minions too. Just like just by consequence of like going off with auctioneer and like and loan shark and just generating coins and stuff. It's just seems so insane. It's just like the the perfect finisher to like all the complementary rogue cards, like the ones that have been released this set, like Bone Spike, and then along with like the other easy mana cheat cards like Preparation, Shadow Step, and stuff like that, and Loan Shark giving coins. It seems very consistent, and we also have like a lot of ways to pull minions directly so that our auctioneers are better. We have like um Shroud of Concealment, and then we also have the Death Rattle one that draws a Death Rattle and triggers it. So we basically
Yeah.
pull our Loan Sharks, add 2 coins to our hand. So like we have a lot of gas for auctioneer too. It's not like an inconsistent combo or anything. Just seems insane to say the least.
We still got Octobot.
Yeah, we also have Octobot.
True.
Yeah, it's just Rogue got good cards again.
Big surprise.
Yeah. Yep.
Baze, anything you want to add before we move on to our final card from the Dardar section?
These rogue cards got me acting up. I'm so excited to play these two.
This rogue deck is going to be a lot of fun to play.
Nerfed is what it's going to be.
It is.
Eventually, something's going to get hit.
But our final Dardar card, Nails, what is it?
Our final Dardar card is Widow Bloom Seedsman. It is a wild growth on a stick and also tutor a card. It's just so it just is like a mana less than it's supposed to cost, and it's another ramp card for Druid, and it's also card draw, and it's like its battle cry is like the same thing as Guff's battle cry, and then it doesn't upgrade your hero power, but it like is sort of comparable to Guff if you like Squint, and I like running 3 Guffs in my deck.
True. I would run 3 Guffs in my deck.
I would run 7.
You actually
Yeah.
can, but you have to play Quest and like the 3 mana 2/4. So it's like you're not actually meant to do it, but yeah, card is just extremely like pushed.
Why does it tutor? That's bust. Why does it tutor?
Yeah, no, like
Yeah, no,
like without the body, it's like it's like basically 4 mana, like the 3 mana wild growth plus the draw card. You could argue that's like 4 mana total. Oh, oh, there's also a 3/2 attached for some reason.
yep.
Not
Pretty
good
nice
enough
one.
otherwise.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a real shame if you're doing the whole Brand Anathrius thing too. Sometimes you'll just do Brand with this. You'll hit 10 mana. Like there's so many good synergies that are just all incidental. And even though I don't think that people are going to get mad at this card, Reddit's not going to say Widowbloom Seedsman made me lose. I hate it. It's just going to be quietly winning lots and lots of games. And it's just going to be great.
I'll save enough for Reddit. How's that?
Yeah.
I will personally make a Reddit post complaining.
Thank you, Super Chicken.
Widowbloom on 3 again? I'll never play this game again. Do the devs even play this game?
So, shall we move to our overrated cards?
I do just want to mention that all of the very strong cards are 4 mana or less. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we might be in for a bit of a quicker meta than this past expansion.
That's true. It is also a
There were
thing that in
definitely some
reviews.
cards.
Oh, go
Some
ahead.
cards that could have. There are definitely some cards that could have been listed that cost 4 more, but looking at it, there actually aren't really that many. Like the main one that comes to mind is Rafam, and we instead included the other 2 in Warlock cards.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking about Drekthar pulling Pelagos. What could have been?
Oh,
You still can.
oh.
Just
Wait,
one.
what do you mean? What could have been?
Oh, if we had a Drekthar Wig Priest, oh
No,
boy,
we can still run that.
we can try.
You can pull Pelagos and a elemental at the same time, so your spells are free.
Yep, Pelagos, Radiant Elemental, Wig. Go next.
Okay, honestly, this is kind of sounding weaker than the stuff you were doing with Drekthar and like Nesnani Sethek. So hey,
That's also true.
that was a fun deck.
So let's stop resurrecting my PTSD and move to the next section. We're gonna talk about overrated cards now. And to open our overrated cards, Baze, tell us, what is an overrated card?
Let's go back to Rogue and talk about the secrets. I picked out, um, I guess, Anonymous Informant to start out. We're going the general secret card. Like, this card is fine. It's good. It got ranked 27th out of the set by the Coin Conceive community poll that we use to like determine. And like secrets just aren't that good. This is by far the best secret activator we've ever had. But like, you're still playing a secret deck. The best way to play secrets is not from hand, and that is not changing. Just not hyped for this card.
I'll choose someone at random here. Dankestad, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I don't think it's like a bad card or anything, but I think it's definitely overrated if it's put at number 27. Like, if you compare this to something like Sparkjoy Cheat, where for one more mana, you're putting a secret into play and drawing a card and getting one more attack, I think that that was just a much better card that we got a few years ago. And generally speaking, cards that are comparable over a few years doesn't really go well for the newer card. And Sparkjoy Cheat was better, so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
super thrilled about Anonymous Informants outside of maybe like a secret mage, and even then I don't think it's at least it deserves to be this highly rated.
Mm-hmm. Now, this looks to me a good moment for us to bring the other one of Dankestad card since he mentioned Secret Mage. So, Dankestad, tell me your first overrated card.
So my first overrated card is Solid Alibi, and this is a card that the Coin Concede community ranked 64th out of the 135 cards in the set. And I am shocked that is in the top half, never mind the top 80 to 85% of cards. So until your next turn, your hero can only take one damage at a time. It's been compared to Ice Block by content creators and people in the community. And I don't think that comparison really bodes all that well. You can't play Solid Alibi early in the game and sort of bank that stall for later. You have to play it the turn before you're going to die. It's a dead card in your hand until that turn. And even on that turn, you have to be at a high enough life total or ahead enough on board to make it so that your opponent's burst doesn't kill you. And outside of a few very specific combos or situations, like against, say, Necrolord Draka, Solid Alibi is really good that first turn because it can take that 17 damage knife hit and reduce it to 1. But the knife still get 2 more hits. You need to come up with more answers and end the game explosively. And I don't know necessarily if Mage can play a deck with slow cards like Solid Alibi while also advancing that win condition. So I am just not convinced that it's the sort of card Mage can afford to put in their decks. And I think it will probably be one of the weaker cards in the set. But hey, when Rune of the Archmage rolls this sometimes, you're not going to be sad.
Fair? I think before I will ask you a question as well after this, but I just want to note this card would have been really interesting if Spell Quest Mage was around, because that deck just wanted frost spells. It didn't really matter what you did.
Yes. And well, it is still sort of around, nerfed, but no payoff cards like Cram Session or anything.
No
So
flow.
yeah, maybe we can try it, but
We need cram session. The
yeah,
quest
Yeah.
mage is dead. We need cram session or something else that allows us to draw burn,
yep.
and we don't have it. We don't. Sanctum Chandler is not enough.
Plus
No.
Steam Cleaner's here now. We can't even loop ignites because Steam Cleaner is going to rain on our parade. How
So
very sad.
here's a question for you, Dankestab, before I open for everyone. What is the general state of Mage here? We aren't going to talk about Mage a ton tonight. We talked about Secret Mage for 10 seconds. So tell me, what is Mage looking like during the next set?
So I think that the existing mage decks right now can probably still exist and still be pretty solid as they are with just a few new tools. But the skeleton mage actually does seem like it has some potential. You're going to be on top of seeing wildfires and big reckless apprentice battle cries. You're going to be seeing some skeletons exploding and popping in too. So I think that those cards are legitimate, can make a real viable ladder deck, and I'm interested in giving them a try without Solid Alibi in my list.
That is fair. Um, Chicken, I'm going to ask you here. Any thoughts on the general state of Mage or Solid Alibi that you want to add?
Yeah, Solid Alibi is even at 64 is probably overrated to some extent. And yeah, I think the probably the prevailing archetype with mage will probably be some hybrid of ping mage and the skeleton package, which will just be probably what ping mage is known as going forward. It does it does make a lot of sense. You have you actually have like a good some good frost spells for Arcanist Dawn Grasp. You have a bunch of like base chip damage to kind
Mm-hmm.
of like get a little bit over the top. You have a bit of armor gain with Cold Case, and plus yeah, having Frozen Touch with like a ton of wait like with so many like minions on the board, you are going to be infusing it on the lot a lot with like all the skeletons dying. So it's kind of a continuous way to like get the honorable kill on your ping or to like kill stuff with your ping. So I think I don't know that's kind of where I'm at with mage. The mage legendary Kel'Thuzad seems like it's like the big payoff card for all the skeletons, and it seems pretty strong. Like it does like it'll. I mean I'll have to see it in practice, but it seems like it'll it'll really push a lot of damage.
Sure. Anyone wants to share any further thoughts about Mage and Solid Alibi?
Um, I mean, I think that it is being overrated, but I do think the card has the potential to uh, exist in a more in like a real like to exist like as a card that you'd run in your deck. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it really, I mean, obviously, like plays nicely with Ice Barrier. It's just like uh, it, it's sort of just another like freeze effect, but stops you from getting Wicked Stab done 10. So and just like allows you to basically get another turn to ping their face for like 8 or 10 damage, and um, getting one more turn is like often enough. And I mean, if you're going first and you find it in your hand, you can either just save it for Finley to recycle it, or
Mm-hmm.
um, play it for a multicaster to cycle it. So it's like not that bad to draw early. Um,
Fair.
I think I'm not. I'm definitely not calling it as like something you're always going to run, but I think it has applications and might see play. Like it's going to be a good discover in the
Sure.
situations where it's a good discover, but
Sure.
yeah, I think the card has some potential. And I don't know. For the rest of the mage set, it's like pretty cool, and I'm excited to play with it. But it's like not too like I think the cards are relatively straightforward to break down. So it's not like Nightcloak Sanctum is busted. KT is pretty cool. The secrets are sus. Like that's just kind of what mages.
Fair. Fair. Now I'll move on to our next card. Chicken, why don't you tell us about our first hunter card of the night?
Yeah, I have no idea how this is the 8th highest rated card of the set. I think people have just looked at this card like in a vacuum without looking at the other Wild Seed synergy cards and not realize that the rest of them are terrible. Like Wild Spirits, sure, it is a strong card, but like to think that that this card is going to like solo carry Wild Seed Hunter on its own seems a little insane to me. Um, it's possible that you run this card like without any of the other Wild Seed cards and just like some Hunter deck, but yeah, I don't really see it. I think it could see play, um, and I think even if it's like a good card, it's still like is so insanely overrated as like I don't think it's even like close to a top 10 card in the set.
Fair. I'll pair up the review of this card with a card that I think really they match the same deck. A lot of time they're going to be played together. So Nails, why don't you tell us about your first hunter card of the night?
Yeah, so I've got Arlon, which is another wild seed card, and Arlon specifically is just incredibly slow. It's turn 5 and we're a hunter, and we don't have great means to fight back on board, so let's play a 5 mana 4/5 and guarantee that we're behind on board for the rest of the game. It just doesn't seem like a good thing to do. I genuinely think the card is like really pretty bad. Um, I think that it doesn't win games. I think it loses games. Um, I think that the 2-drop is good, but like I'm even low on Wild Spirits. I don't think that. I think that the Spirit Poacher is the good one of the Wild Seed cards, and I think that like basically every other one of them is unplayable, except for Stag Charge is fine in Quest Hunter because it's a hunter spell that deals
Yeah.
damage.
Yeah, you don't care about
But
anything.
yeah, yeah, like the effect, the Wild Seeds are just generally like pretty underwhelming. The 3 mana 5/4 that equips a weapon in 3 years is definitely the high roll. But uh, like we can't get that consistently. Uh, the taunt is kind of whatever. The 3/1 rush is like very much a min roll, and it, it's just really bad when you hit it. Not only because it messes up your revive pet, but um, just it's like not that good. And your opponent can play around it because it takes a while to summon. I guess they can't off of Wild Spirits, but then you're paying 3 mana to get a 3/1 rush, which is like about 1 mana worth of value, and then uh, waiting a while to get the rest of your value. It's just um,
Hmm.
they're the package doesn't seem powerful.
Fair.
Yeah, it's just like slow and bad.
Uh,
I'm not even going to get into the fact that board space is an issue, but if you're summoning a bunch of dormant stuff, um, that's like it takes up 4 board slots when you play it, and while the while those are ticking, you don't get to use those board spaces.
that's true.
And like if you've got like uh, an aggro hunter type curve where you've got like uh, I mean, like not even getting into trogs. Like if you got some trogs on your board, you can't play Arlon because like it's just you don't have space to summon 4 dudes, and you generally want to have more than like 5 mana 4/5 and then 3 minions. It just is flawed, and
Mm-hmm.
the card is just being so overrated. Wild Season in general.
Fair.
I don't think we've had a hunter deck that like just had like that same kind of board presence in the mid game in a long time. Like the last time we did, we cared about playing Savannah High main. But I do think this is the closest we're gonna get for a long time. If this is like, I think it has potential. I think that it's definitely not the fucking top 10 card for Erelon. Like, but I do think that this has potential. I just don't think that that's where Hearthstone's at anymore. We don't play in the mid game like as a hunter. So I have hope, but I am very skeptical of the cards as
I
well.
think it's plausible that they could like release cards that make that something that you want to do, but
And,
um, even then, it's just like none of the. It is free plays on your future turns, but it's like you I don't know. I don't think they're going to be giving Hunter like turn 7 plays that go along with a 2/5 taunt. Like it's just weird.
like the dream world would be this works in Quest Hunter, but then you're spending mana not on damage dealing spells because then you don't really care about like what board space you're using. And then the high roll, like let's say you get 2 of the weapons, you got nothing. You got one that just whiffs really because you're gonna have the weapon override itself again. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely an all-in package because of Wild Spirits, but it's definitely got a ton of flaws. So we'll see if it works at all really.
Fair.
Well, as the resident contrarian here, I can't even be that contrarian. I'm gonna say that Nails is completely right on Aralon being kind of unplayable and slow. And I also think it's one of the weaker cards in the set, and 19's way too high, but I feel like Wild Spirits is about in the right spot just because it's one of those cards that will lead to some pretty early high rolls on occasion. Like Nails, you said that the weapon is the high roll, and with Wild Spirits, at least you do hit it 2/3 of the time because you're guaranteed 2 different seeds,
Yeah,
which does mean that you're often getting that weapon in 2 turns. And because you can curve the 2 drop into the 3 drop sometimes, if you see it in your opening hand, you're going to win a lot if you have both of those cards.
I think
And
that it's a card. Oh, go sorry. Sorry.
oh no, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I think that it's a card that low rolls and not a card that high rolls. Like if you're playing Wild Seeds, you're going to be counting on having a True Soul champion heading into your turn 5, and if you whiff that and you get the Rusher and a 2/5 taunt, then you trade the Rusher, and then you we're counting on having a weapon to respond to board because it's not really a face hunter card, and then you just don't have that. And
Yeah.
I think it's a low roll card, not a high roll card.
I think, well, to be specific, I think it's like a high roll card in the mulligan. All of these cards are going to have pretty inflated mulligan win rates compared to what their other stats are, but like drawn, I just don't know. Like late in the like if you don't get this in your mulligan, if you like draw Wild Spirits on 7, it's pretty sad. Like you
Mm-hmm.
basically can never get anything out of that card. But if you're able to play it on turn 2 or 3, it's probably going to be really strong for you. And I think
Sure.
cards like that can be just hard to gauge, but my gut's going the other way and saying that it's gonna do enough when you have it on time.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't think that it's going to win you the game if you hit it that early. And if I'm drawing like an unplayable top deck card, I would do want it to be like a massive amount of tempo. And I think that the decks in the game are doing powerful enough things that they can um, manage to deal with Wild Spirits on curve.
We'll come back to Hunter in our last card for the night, but Let's move into the class that I think everyone spends a long time thinking their plays when they're playing this. Paladin. Dankestad, tell us our first Paladin card of the night.
It is Stewart the Steward. So here we have the 3 mana 3/3 with Death Rattle. Give the next Silverhand recruit you summon +3/+3 in this Death Rattle. And sort of the theme you're seeing in this section is this card can give a lot of value, but it's too slow at what it does. And if you play the Steward, one thing that is not great about it is that against a control deck, it doesn't really snowball if it doesn't get removed. It's, a 3 mana, 3/3, and it's not really much of a threat. If you remove it, sure, your opponent can make a 2 mana 4/4 or 1 mana 4/4 if they have a recruit in hand. But they need to be in that situation, and your opponent's probably not going to feel pressured by Stewart the Steward on board. If it gets wind chilled, if it gets hit by Nightcloak Sanctum, if it gets Smothering Starfish, you just get nothing out of it. And it's not we don't live in a meta where Lord Jaraxxus or cards like that are strong, and even Paladin can be doing better things usually with their turn than making 2 mana 4/4s that require investment. So I think that Stewart is probably a fine card. You might put it in your deck begrudgingly if you are going to be running only Paladin cards, but the effect is just not game winning or worthy of having Stewart being 40th out of 135 in the set.
It's important to note that it doesn't let you make 2 mana 4/4s. It lets you make precisely one 2 mana 4/4 at a
Yes.
time. Just if they just decide to coexist with a 4/4, then your hero power sucks again. And maybe that's a win for the Paladin, but I don't think it is. 2 mana 4/4 also isn't that far above the curve of stats in current year. It's just cool you cheated a little bit, but you have to set it up because you're a Paladin, so you can't have nice things.
Turn 4/4/4 for 2 is not good. Turn 2 would be good, but turn 4 it's a lot.
Yeah, it's just vanilla stats on curve.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 2 mana to do something else, but not play hero power. Yeah, it just doesn't really spark joy. It's we haven't even gotten into the part where Cariel overwrites it.
True.
I think it's probably going to be okay post rotation. Once you don't have Cariel, that makes you not want to have Silverhand recruits as your hero power. But yeah, it's just so much of the Paladin's class power budget is loaded into the hero card, and this just directly competes with that, or anti-synergizes.
So, Dale, since you were telling us about this Paladin card, why don't you tell us about our final Paladin card of the night?
Yeah, so Elitist Snob was ranked the 5th best card in the set. And if it were a neutral, sure. Lots of classes enjoyed playing Ziliax. Paladin doesn't really need the heal or the taunt or the life, or I guess Divine Shield's a little bit nice, but it's just um, uh, what was wasn't a 5/4 or sorry 5 mana 3/4 Divine Shield Rush the Ghostly Charger or something.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's the stat line of a card from Boomer Hearthstone,
Yep.
and now we're getting that and saying that this is the 5th best card in the set, because that's effectively what this card is. I guess it has taunt as well.
Which
Um,
one is Boomer Hearthstone? Oh no.
Yes.
Yes, it
it's
is.
before I started playing, so
This was
uh,
when I arrived in THL.
um, yeah, no, all I know is that it's from before my time. Anyways, yeah, it really, it's just not a good stat line. It's some heal in a class that doesn't, healing is not Paladin's problem. Removing minions is kind of Paladin's problem, but removing minions on turn 5 isn't Paladin's problem. Paladin's problem is removing minions on like the first couple turns and not having like a snowballed board.
Yeah.
Like I'm being generous and assuming that the card is always active, and in its always active state, it's still underwhelming. If you have like drawn a low curve and you don't have that many cards in hand, then you start losing keywords and it gets even worse. It's like probably an include in Holy Paladin because that deck is like desperate for anything that does anything, and this technically does have like Rush and Divine Shield and Daunt. Like it's versatile, but
Hmm.
it's just nowhere near the top 5 cards of the set. It's like an average card in the set, or maybe slightly above average, like barely slightly,
Fair.
probably like 50-ish.
Now, before I open to talk about Elitist Knob, I want to ask you a question, Nails. How do you feel Paladin is looking with this expansion? I'll give you my opinion for this one. I don't think it looks good, but what do you think?
Paladin is just like its sets for the past year or more have just been you can do straightforward stuff and it's pretty fair, and uh, there's little playmaking that can be done. The exceptions are like Penflinger Libram Paladin was a strong deck and a deck that like
Hmm.
had some intricate plays you could make, and Conviction when it was at 1 mana like allowed you to have some explosive potential, and there's just none of that.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, the class is very flat and doesn't do powerful things. Mech Paladin's like sort of okay. Bubblebot can make plays a little bit, but it just and basically where I'm going with this is this Paladin set is more of the same. It's just boring and doesn't like make me want to play the class.
Yeah.
Like the Fabian is a nice card, but it's rarely going to be infused on curve. And um, like if we're playing a like a 2/4 that summons a pair of 3/1 Divine Shields on 5, uh, after we've had 3 of our minions die, it's like not that impressive. It's like
Hmm.
um, it's keeping pace with what other board decks are doing. Like Naga Priest cheats that many stats and like just Shadow Word devours your dudes, and then you're left as a 2/3 for 4 mana. It's like I don't know, it really just doesn't inspire me to play the card or the class.
Sure.
Um, I've even seen people talking up Great Hall, and that just like doesn't really do anything either. It like turning your opponent's minion into a 3/3 is like not that punishing. It can still do stuff as a 3/3, and turning your own minion into a 3/3 is not something they have to respect. Like I don't get what the card is supposed to be doing. I
Yeah.
really just Paladin's so mediocre.
I mean, compared to Vile Library.
Yeah, that's so funny when you try to make those comparisons. It's just like not even the same game. Like
No.
the Paladin's playing by completely different rules. Um,
Yeah, you have a
and
chance of you're at most giving +2/+2, while the other one, in a bad case scenario, you're giving +2/+2.
yeah, it's just I don't know. If someone else can talk about Paladin. I'm so uninspired by the class.
Well, I think Vile Library is definitely the better card. If there are any Magic players listening to this, they're probably twitching right now at someone saying that turning things into 3/3s over and over again isn't exciting.
Yeah, fair.
but but yeah, Hearthstone's a different game, and I don't think that Great Hall is quite as interesting as that certain Magic card was. So
Fair.
yeah, Paladin's just sort of stuck. Like I think that they've just put so much of what Paladin can do into Cariel that they're just afraid to give any more generally good cards that aren't just a little bit overstated for their costs or doing a bit better than the neutral equivalent. And would be cool if they got something that was a little more up to snuff.
They have exactly one good card.
Paladin's the new quest warrior. It's going to be really good. Low ranks, a lot of good stats. It's very proactive. It's a bad class. If you have to use your brain to like figure out what you want to do, other than playing the card that matches your amount of mana.
Pretty grim view on Paladin, but we are in the overrated arc. So, Based, what is our next overrated card?
All right, now we're officially back at Rogue with Private Eye, ranked 14th in the set. And like, I'm really skeptical about this card because this is a really, really strong secret enabler. Probably one of the strongest we've ever seen. But like, the secrets are just not that good. Like, the draw card is going to be dead late game. Like, you're going to play it late game and they will just never trigger it. They'll just never use full 10 mana. They'll have fine turns. And then like the kidnap card, someone's going to play Jace into your kidnap, get their Jace back the next turn, and Jace you a second time, and you're going to want to delete the deck. Like there are things like that that exist. I just don't think that the secrets given are going to be worth taking at the deck slots because you don't want to draw them. And we have so many better things we can do in Rogue right now, so it's just going to get left behind.
Now, before I open it to everyone, Based, this is our final Rogue card of the night. So, what is Rogue looking like?
I'm curious to see how like that miracle rogue that Super Chicken point out will pan out. Will Gadget and Auctioneer finally return to a deck? But like, I think we can just put all the good cards in a rogue deck, put in Knowles, and do really well. I don't think it's going to be doing anything like new and exciting, particularly. Just the decks that exist are going to get more lethal, better, more efficient cards. I think Rogue is just going to be very solid at doing the thing where you develop your own stats and remove your opponents, and then they die.
Fair?
You're a fan of combo rogue.
Yep.
The good old-fashioned combo of damage plus damage equals damage.
Absolutely.
Or it equals more damage, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Any further thoughts about Rogue anyone wants to share?
I really want to play Private Eye on turn 1. That'll be fun sometimes. But yeah, I'm interested in trying all the cards out for this. Like I definitely think that the miracle side of it is more exciting than the secrets, but the secrets seem more than good enough to me. And Ghastly Gravedigger is another card that really appeals to my fantasy as a Hearthstone player. I like to take cards out of my opponent's hand and put them in their deck and make them feel sad. So even if it's not the most competitive, you're probably going to see me trying out those secrets at some point and still expect it to perform, even if it's just not quite at that top level.
Are you kind of into the turn 7 brand Gravedigger, step Gravedigger, yeet 4 cards from their hand?
Oh yeah. We're going to be seeing that.
There?
Yeah, I'm actually. I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go for it, Nails.
Oh yeah. I think that Secret Rogue is pretty cool actually. For such for like things like I just mentioned. But yeah, Private Eye just quite good on curve, and pulling stuff out of your deck is generally a pretty good thing to do in Hearthstone. Yeah, and like just pretty into Private Eye. Like I don't think you play Anonymous Informant or anything. Like 0 mana 2/3. It's not something that is worth running in a deck other than a pure aggro deck. I think that might be a hot take actually, but yeah, I don't think many decks would play a 0-mana 2/3 uh, that required like synergies to be used.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's like Private Eye. I think the secrets are uh, about. I think that they're like reasonable enough effects. I do think on 10 mana the Rogue draw secret is quite bad, but it's very good on curve, and so I'm willing to overlook the late game limitations. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, Private Eye just tutoring two secrets and like playing them is quite cool. Um, the legendary Rogue secret card is completely awful. You probably don't play it in Secret Rogue, but
Yeah.
uh, I think yeah, I'm like optimistic for the Rogue secrets, mostly because I also like Ghastly Gravedigger.
Fair.
You're not going to sketchy information your Halkias?
Good question. Um, yeah, that's a thing that you can literally do, huh?
Does
Yeah,
it
I
just
think
like does it
That's
just put
funny.
it in a secret
Back
if
up.
you have it?
if
But
you
you,
have if you have a secret, it should get resummoned when it gets procced. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
no,
the
that would
only
work.
yeah,
Um,
that's the only
I mean,
redeeming quality for the card I can think of.
people are upset that like um, all the other ones will get affected by the sack because that also has death rattle. But the draw sketchy information does work.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna say that I think that Halkias isn't like that bad. Like the stat line, we saw School Teacher have to get nerfed from a 4-mana 5/4 because it was pushing too much face damage, and like that's kind of where that's like what my brain sees
Sure.
when like 4-mana 5/4 is brought up. Like 5 attack is a lot, and so I think that it's getting disrespected a little too hard, but it it also still might not go in the deck it's meant to go in. So
Fair. Now, let's look at our final overrated card. Chicken, go ahead. Tell us, what do you think is your final overrated card?
Yeah, at 52 out of 135, we have Relic of Dimensions. Um, I wanted to choose kind of just the entire Relic package, but this is the highest rated Relic, I believe. So I'm going to talk about this one a bit and then the Relics as a whole. Yeah, people are saying this is like Skull of Gul'dan. Um, and or like saying people are saying it's unnerfed Skull of Gul'dan. It's obviously not. It's worse than that. And also like 6 mana Skull of Gul'dan was in standard last year and didn't get played for the vast majority of the year. Got played a bit in Barons, but Barons was a terrible expansion, like super low power level. And obviously way lower in power level than uh what we're seeing today. And it also has the wild seeds problem of like if you only draw one of them early, you're in a terrible spot. It's like a 7 to 9 card package or whatever, where you need to draw all of them to be doing like really powerful things. And most of the time, you just don't draw all of them in time, and you're just not doing powerful things, and then your deck sucks.
Hmm. Now, in general, what do you see the state of Demon Hunter being for this expansion, Chicken?
Um, I mean, I think the obvious one is like the discard slash, or I guess shuffle slash discard aggro DH. So I don't think DH is fundamentally changing too much from like what we're seeing right now. I think it'll like the curve will be a lot lower. We'll
Hmm.
probably top out just at Kurtrus as opposed to Zalag and Jace, and we'll probably run a lot of a lot more lower cost cards. Um, and yeah, I mean, we can kind of cut the inefficient draw that we had to run in the deck before, like Spectral Sight and Need for Greed, because we now have super efficient card draw, like um what's the Magnifying Glaive and the 4 mana 7/7. And then we still
Yeah,
have Fossil Fanatic too, because we have like really good net, like we have uh like two really good glaive cards. We have Dead Prison Glaive and Magnifying Glaive. So now we like Fossil Fanatic is active without having to hero power even more often, which is really good. So yeah, I think we have really efficient draw. Just really stat efficient cards in general. So yeah, I think aggro DH is the way to go.
fair. Anyone else wants to add anything about DH or relics? Based anything you want to say?
Um, I mean, I'm super excited for aggro. I think that if relics had like um, a different set of cards that they could actually work. I think it's just like the remaining stuff doesn't make sense with the relics, and the relics don't really help out what you want to be doing.
Sure.
Like you would want some more solid mid-cost cards, but that's not what's good in DH right now, anyways. So like Relic of Dimension doesn't have anything great to hit with huge discounts. Um,
Fair.
but yeah, the aggro or like the fell, still looks really good. We're getting some good options. Maybe even Death Rattle. Demon Hunter comes back because of the new legendary. But
Mhm. Anyone wants to say anything else about Relic of Dimensions, Demon Hunter before we move into our underrated cards?
I don't love the design of the like. When I'm building a deck, I don't want to have synergy spoon fed to me. Like I when I'm deciding which cards go in my deck, if I'm including the relics, I include 9 cards in my deck, and you have to run all of them, or mm, like you're probably not getting Zymox because it's like a pretty solid payoff card, and just it's bad for. It's not how I like building decks.
Fair.
It's just run all of them or run none of them, and like that's half their set. Secret Rogue also kind of has this problem where you just kind of need whatever the good secret package is, and you run all of it, and you're not just considering, do I want this card? Do I want this card? You can like cut cards from the package, but they're like not individually good enough on their own, and they're just cookie cutter synergies, and it's just kind of unfortunate that we've got that at multiple places.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's fair.
I'm a bit higher on the relics than Chicken is. I think that Relic Vault lets you do some pretty powerful things, and uh, cheating mana on your Relic of Dimensions is like pretty good. But um,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not super excited to build those decks. It's just either the package is good or it isn't, and that'll just like influence the DH DH's class's viability. So it's like boring.
Fair. Fair. Now, I'll move us to our next part, which is the underrated cards. It's always the block I like the most, to be honest. And Chicken, you're going to start with a Shaman card for us. Tell us, what is your Shaman card?
Okay. Yeah, contrary to popular belief, this is not a neutral card. This is actually a shaman card. It's a Maze Guide. Yeah, the 2 mana 1/1 that summons another 2 cost minion, and then but they're not actually 2 cost minions. They're 3 cost minions. Um, so we have a 2 mana card that summons 2 3 cost minions, which is pretty good. I don't think the card is like broken or anything, but it's definitely flying under the radar a decent bit. It seems like it's like the 102nd card out of 135, which I think is definitely lower than it should be. I don't think this card's gonna like make huge waves in Evolve Shaman or something, but I think Evolve Shaman is going to be a good deck, and this will probably be a staple in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
And
especially because you can go like Muck Pools on one into this.
yes, that sounds scary.
Yeah, it's just like
Um,
I think it's just pretty efficient.
yeah. So when I saw this card initially, I was like, I don't want to use my Muck Pool's charge on this. I want to just make higher value plays. But the fact that you need to hit the infuses um, in order to have your uh, convincing disguise leveled up, and this is an efficient way to get 2 of your 4 minions died. That part's pretty cool, and the fact that locations only let you use them once every other turn also means you just kind of want to have something to curve into, and that's pretty cool for this. So, yeah, I was initially like questioning whether this would be included in Evolve Shaman, but yeah, it definitely makes the cut, and that's going to make it better than a bottom 35 card in the set for sure. Good spot.
Yeah, like I think too, like you said with muck pools, like using it on curve is so important. And if you play it on one, you want to go 2, 4, 6, and this is the best thing that you can hit on two, I think, with muck pools. So definitely good for Maze Guide. I also think too, like it's crazy that we've come so far to the point where Faceless Lackey is sort of now just in the collection as Maze Guide, given you have that one mana difference. There's no hoop you need to jump through to get Maze Guide in your hand. You just need to put it in the deck. So
Yeah.
we're at the point now where something like this is just powerful. Probably lots of stats for the cost. I think the average 2-drop is probably better than it's been ever in Hearthstone, or pretty close. So yeah, Maze Guide looks pretty good.
Plus,
I'm a little bit curious about whether other decks are going to be interested in this just to get their infuses
mm-hmm.
procs. And as much as I think Infuse is a flawed mechanic, this card does play really nicely with Infuse, so it actually could just be a card that is being like kind of a dark horse card where it sees play in like decks and people very much don't expect that.
Yeah, just imagine if you play this into Bibliomite.
Exactly, yeah, no, it's just 2 mana 5/5, and that's it's early enough in the game where stats actually matter.
Yeah, that just wins games. If you get 2 mana 5/5 or coin 2 mana 5/5, that's pretty good.
Doomsayer is back in the pool though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure is, but if you're playing it on curve, that's not even bad.
Yeah, no, not bad at all on curve. You evolve it if you roll Doomsayer later.
Yeah,
Anyways.
exactly. It's like fine.
Now, Chicken, I'm going to ask you, since this is our only Shaman card of the night, what do you think is the state of Shaman in this new expansion?
I mean, aside from Evolve Shaman, which I think will be pretty strong, Snowfall Guardian is still a card. So if there's a lot of like fast board strategies, I think Shaman will still have some viability and sort of be just like a board freeze Shaman. I
Sure.
don't really know what else goes with that. Maybe it's the current Control Shaman package with a couple new cards. But yeah, I think Snowfall Guardian still being in standard means that Shaman will probably just always be relevant in some respect.
Fair? Fair? I agree. I hate that card so much. Any
Control
further?
Shaman. Oh yeah, Control Shaman got some good cards in this set, but not from its own class cards. Some of the neutrals are quite good. Theotar, the Mad Duke, lets you trade piranhas for your opponent's win con. The Forensic Duster, it's like a very plausible inclusion in Control Shaman as like mini Okani. I'm not sure that that's what you want to be doing, but if you're looking to bully board decks, that seems valuable. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a deck that like already wasn't really struggling for card quality. So if it if it can get 2 neutrals to upgrade it, then you're gonna take that and run with it. It's like
Yeah.
pretty sick. Both of those cards play very nicely with Volner and Bran, of course. Like Bran plus the Theotar, just trade a couple cards. It causes problems for decks that are looking to win the game, and that's like main like that's kind of the decks that Shaman struggles with anyways. So being able to steal a hero card from your opponent it goes a long way to the Shaman's game plan being sufficient to get there.
Any further thoughts on Shaman before we move into our second underrated card?
Seems pretty covered to me.
Awesome.
Oh,
So,
Totem Shaman sucks.
oh
I don't
yeah.
know if we needed to mention that, but completely unplayable. They printed like half a deck worth of cards for a deck that wants to play a bunch of synergy, and the deck even like none of the plays are especially powerful anyways.
And the weapon is
But
okay.
the weapon's decent and might show up just to infuse Evolve Shaman's cards, but um, yeah, just so underwhelming.
Agreed.
And they wasted a legendary slot on the Storm Ray, or the Stone Ray,
Yes.
for just like I don't want Evolve Shaman to be good, or sorry, no, that's a separate issue. But I don't want Totem Shaman to be good either because the Stone Ray's just going to be Drekthar Light if it's ever good, and yeah, you don't want that to be the state of a deck.
True.
Like Stonewright Macaw, like could be powerful, but the minions still die because it doesn't
Yeah.
buff health, so it's like not actually that good anyways. It's just really poor design. I think the Evolved Shaman design is fine, just like Totem Shaman is. I think they very much just wanted to fill out the rest of the set because they knew they wanted to print Evolve and didn't know what else to put, but it wasn't fully thought out.
Fair.
Or it was, and they're printing more Totem Shaman support, which, again, I'm really not excited to see that if it's ever good.
Fair. Thank you, Stad. I know you have a card from what is considered the best class of the next set, so tell me, what is incoming here?
Oh, so of course, my main class warrior. I don't know if it's getting a good one, but it's definitely getting one that's better than the 100th best card in the set, and that is Burden of Pride. So, Burden of Pride summons 3/1/3 jailers with taunt, and if you have 20 or less health, give them +1/+1. So, the card that naturally people have compared this to is, if I guess maybe if you're a millennial Hearthstone player, you might know about Barricade, which was from Scholomance. And if you had an empty board, it made 2/2/4 taunts. If you had a board, it just made one. And Burden of Pride, even when you don't make the condition, produces just as many stats as Barricade. It is 12 total stats, 3/9 versus, kind of the 4/8. Distributions are a bit different, but card is a big speed bump. If you are trying to make a controlling warrior work, it's 9 health of taunt that your opponent has to either chew through and commit into to eat a brawl or shield shatter, or they don't commit into it, kind of clear it, and you stabilize a bit, have time to develop something like Outrider's Axe. So in the controlling shell, it works. It also can fuel infuse payoffs if you are going for that sort of thing. And if you're trying to do the more aggressive warrior that the other cards are pushing, this is 3 bodies that can take damage for your anima extractor. You can use them with Riot and Rokara, maybe to push a little bit more damage. And if they stick around on the board somehow, then Decimator Olgra can come down with them. Those synergies, I think, are less important. You're going to put this card in that deck, and we'll see how that deck pans out. I think it'll be playable, but not good.
Mm-hmm.
But Burden of Pride is just one of the better cards in a vacuum in the set. And Warrior definitely got some cards that are very bad. And I was really surprised that this was rated near the bottom of them. I think it's one of the only cards Warrior is happy about getting this expansion.
So before I send it to everyone else, think is Warrior going to be a performer next expansion? I think that's a big question. And what do you think?
I think Warrior is probably not going to be the deck that you want to play on ladder, but I think that it will be okay into board focus matchups. Infused Axe, Anima Extractor, and Burden of Pride are really, really strong cards on curve, and they actually can get it done. Anima Extractor, given it's not front loaded, has some of the most stats that you could ever get on a 2-drop in Hearthstone. And there will just be some games where you draw your cards on curve, blow your opponent out, and the board deck is sad that they lose to Rakara and Riot on the spot. So if I'm building a conquest lineup, I'm going to really be thinking about Warrior if board based decks are the best things in the meta, because it can just sort of counter them and push a lot of face damage with the top end. But if you're trying to like get threats in under something like, a 40 card Renathal deck that has a flashy win condition in the mid or late game, you just aren't going to get the damage there if you draw in the wrong order. And I think that consistency issue is going to keep Warrior from being top tier and being in the better half of classes this set.
Fair.
I do need to point out, thank you said. I know you may not have been much of a dual paladin player, but Barricade is actually from the Dark Moon races.
Dark Moon
Uh,
Races, that's right.
despite being a dual class card, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. I
Yeah.
was a dual paladin player though, but not good memories.
um, anyone wants to add anything about Warrior? Chicken, anything you want to say here?
Warrior does suck. Hard to get past that. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. The only put like, I don't know, pipe dream deck that Warrior has is some sort of sell like minion trade warrior where you just self damage all your minions, maybe get some hand buffs in. It really just feels like Rush Warrior though, and Rush Warrior is a Forged in the Barrens deck, and I think we are light years away from Forged in the Barrens in this point. Like the cards are obviously better on average, but I don't know. I I have a hard time seeing like minion warrior or like minion tempo warrior really uh having a huge impact on the meta.
Any further Warrior thoughts before we move on to our next cards? Still a lot to go.
Imbued Axe is like kind of sleeper, like really strong. Um, like 3 durability and board buff. It's like pretty comparable to Silver Sword, which was a 7 or 8 mana card, something like that. In Paladin, uh,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, it just kind of like the effect, if it's infused, compares favorably to a card that costs more than twice its mana. Uh, but yeah, there isn't a sufficient shell. Like it just needs Battle Rage, and then it's in business. But it doesn't have Battle Rage yet, so
Mhm.
hard to respect that. But I mean, once they give Battle Rage in the next core set, uh, then yeah, we're playing Warrior for an expansion again
Or the
at
return
the
of
start of the year.
Risky Skipper.
If they give us Skipper, we are only playing Warrior with these cards because Anima Extractor, Skipper, Crazed Wretch, like just the cards go so well together. If Skipper exists, but it doesn't yet, and so yeah. Hmm.
Um. So, based. I'm gonna move to you here. Tell us what is our next underrated card.
we get to talk about probably the coolest new tech card, Theatar, the Mad Duke. Um, it is as if you get to discover where you're going to mutinous, and you can start mutinusing some spells. Obviously, you have to give up one of your cards, but I do think that I'm okay with that. I can give them a card if I'm taking away the card I choose. It's going to whiff still. It's not perfect, but like it got rated almost in the bottom half by the community when this is going to be one of the most impactful cards affecting like combo decks for the next year and a half. Going to be seen a lot, especially like I think that this might be what makes Control Shaman an even better deck. Like, let's say you steal a what's the word? The little resurrect your piggies from Boar Priest. Now they have to do it with one. They got to trade it 5 times before they run through their deck. There's lots of things that you can do with this that I'm really excited to do.
Yeah,
Important to note
can't
they
even
would
do
not
it.
be able to resurrect 5 piggies because they'd only have had 2 die. But
Oh, true.
yeah, no, that just straight up they concede to that.
Yeah, you take one of them, it's over.
Yeah, there is a lot of different cards in Boar Priest that I mean, even if you just steal their Zarella, then you can develop your stuff without fear of Zarella, and they lose.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, they can like Pyromancer, but it's very, very hard.
Especially too with how high synergy decks are, giving your opponent a card from your deck is a very low downside. It's unfortunate that you give it up, but if you can get rid of a token card, like I think we mentioned the piranhas from schooling as an example, you can just stick your opponent with something that's completely useless for them and, just destroy their whole game plan. I think that this like of all the cards that the 4 of us are going to bring up in this section, I think personally this one might be the most underrated of them all. It's very, very, very strong.
Yes, I just agree with that take. It's super impactful. Going to be, and it's not going to be in every deck. Obviously, like you don't play this in a tempo deck because 4-mana 3/3 is quite slow, and you're not going to win the game off of stealing one of a control deck's removal cards. But yeah, it's a extremely good card.
Fair. Any further thoughts on Theodore the Mad Duke before we move into our final Warlock card of the night? All right. So, Dankistad, tell us about our Warlock card here.
Well, guess what, guys? Once again, I am bringing you another card that summons taunt minions in the mid game for an efficient cost. It is Shadow Waltz, ranked 80th out of 135 in the set. 5-mana shadow spell that summons a 3/5 shadow with taunt. If a minion died this turn, summon another. So, all in all, not the most exciting card in the world on face value. 5-mana 3/5 is obviously pretty terrible, but if you can get 2 3/5s, it's a good deal. Beyond that, though, there are just a few more synergies that I think make this really worthwhile and a card that I'm probably going to put in my Imp Warlock. And the reasons for that are that we have Lady Darkvein, which is the Warlock Legendary, which is a 5-mana 3/6 that makes 2 2/1s that death rattle and trigger the last shadow spell you had. If that spell happened to be Shadow Waltz, and there are ways that you can get Shadow Waltz in play before turn 5, or even later, Lady Darkvein then is, in a sense, a 5-mana 7/8 that death rattles into 12/20 of stats because each of those 2/1s will die, and that is a minion that died this turn, so it will make 2 3/5s, which is really, really strong. And, if you're playing Dark Vein and Rafam and just having cards that can reload your board, be more threats with Vile Library, that's a really awesome way to finish the game. Or, if you are just playing like a curse control warlock, this is just another card to go alongside Demonic Assault to just give aggro decks or decks that do large singular burst with weapons like Demon Hunter a big headache. So I'm really interested in this card. I don't think that it's one of the best cards in the set. I'm not going to say, that this is some super high impact card like Necrolord Draka, Wild Bloom Seedsman, or something like that, but it's definitely a card that I think belongs in a lot of competitive decks for the class, and I don't think it should be in the bottom half.
Now, before we open to a discussion on Shadow Waltz, tell me, Dankestad, what is Warlock going to be doing this expansion? Is it just imps, or do we have more stuff?
It is just imps in a sense because every warlock deck will be playing imps to make impending catastrophe work, but it will be doing a lot of different things with that. It could be a straight up imp aggro deck. It could try curses again. There's a phylactery mind warlock build that looks very, very promising. I think that warlock can really just do anything because impending catastrophe is such a strong enabler for almost every strategy. It's just going to be every single deck will have two impending catastrophes, two wicked shipments, probably two fiendish circles, and we'll see what the other cards are, but those cards will be in every single deck.
Fair. Anyone wants to add any thoughts about Shadow Waltz or Warlock as a whole? Nails, anything you want to say here?
I mean, Warlock as a whole, they gave it some incredible cards. And block is like so. Last expansion with the curse cards, they decided to print all of Warlock's cards at 1 mana more than they were supposed to be a balanced card. So to make that up, this expansion they printed all of Warlock's cards at -1 mana. Um, and so yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of Warlocks on ladder until the balance patch, and I hope the balance patch hits before the Masters Tour.
They
Because
did
yeah,
say
Warlock's incredible.
they said expect it 2 weeks after the set drops. So we've got
Uh,
plenty.
I see.
Yeah, they did say that they're going to be looking at a balance patch at the earliest possible, which they said afterwards would be 2 weeks after the set drops. I am super excited for Warlock, and I really want to see if Shadow Warlock will work. So does that legendary, if you've only cast one Shadow spell, would it apply it to both minions, or does it work like with the Death Rattle one before, where you had to have 2 different Death Rattles or 2 Death Rattles die?
It's
Each of
not
them
like
gets the
Vectus.
same spell.
Yeah.
Each of them,
Shit.
yeah.
Yeah, an
Jeez.
impending catastrophe is your consolation prize, so you just draw 2 cards or more.
Okay. All right.
That card is so busted.
It's a lot of draw.
It's very messed up. It's so good.
The worst case scenario, it's a 3/6 that summons 2/2/1s that summons 2 loot hoarders.
Yeah, that's pretty much you're either getting loot hoarders or you're getting 12/20. There are some good outcomes there.
Well, the first loot
Or
hoarder
you're putting
costs
curses
0.
into your opponent's hand. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you just play. If you have an Abyssal Wave loaded up, that'll AOE for 8 with a Mortal Coil.
Yep.
So that's sounding terrifying enough. Let's go to the most terrifying set in Castle Nathria here. We're going to start our Druid block. We kind of had a hint of it earlier, but now we have a lot of Druid. Nails, let's open this Druid block.
Sure. So, rated as the 25th best card in the set, we have Topior the Shrubbery. For the nerds out there, it's Topior the Shrubagazer. It is a dragon which makes all of your nature spells for the rest of the game summon a 3/3. A 3/3 is not an insignificant amount of stats, and it has rush. I think that there's like a decent chance that we're still playing Kazakhstan this next expansion, and yeah, it just is. It's like kind of hard to appreciate how much an effect like this changes how the game is played. It's like kind of comparable to Quest Hunter's quest reward, where like the every time you play a spell on Quest Hunter, you get 2 damage. You don't get it for your aquatic forms or your moonlit guidances, but you're going to be putting a lot of nature spells in your deck, and all of them summon a dude, and so your innervate just gives you a mana crystal and makes a dude. It's really, really like it just fundamentally changes the game after it comes down. And like it was rated relatively highly, but saying that this is the 25th best card in this set is absolute cap. The card is easily top 5, and it might be like top 3 or 4. I don't think it's better than Draka, but like uh, any other card in the set, just kind of it's like up there with the best in block cards.
Yeah. Anyone
Yeah,
wants to
it
add
just
any? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it just seems like I don't know. I was thinking like, oh, this is awesome. We have an excellent dragon card, and now we don't have to run like stupid amalgam or like primordial drake in our Kazrud. Maybe we still want to run amalgam just to try to high roll another Topior. I'm not sure.
You really can hit this off of Moonlit Guidance and get 2 shrubberies for each of your nature
Oh
spells.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so insane. Oh my
If you're
god.
doing the Brandon Athreus thing too, this is also a fallback that you could brand and
Brand
get
this.
more.
You can brand this thing.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's
It's
it's just so insane. Like there's so many like I don't know. There's so many nature spells that you already want to run in. It's not even a hindrance on like it's not even like a deck building constraint. It's just I don't, there's no where's the downside? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I think when you brought up Draka, like as like another top card, I think that one thing both of them share is just that you can build your whole deck around it to do something absurd. Like you can have this be your most expensive card with captured cold twos, all nature spells, just go off and make so many 3/3s. But even if you just play this in like a regular alignment druid list or a regular ramp list, it will still be excellent. Like you can
Yeah,
either
like you wouldn't change the list if this card stopped existing, and you would still play the deck if this card stopped existing. But it has absurd synergy with the deck anyways. It's just
right, exactly.
correct.
It
It's like
asks nothing of you.
this is not a weak set, and this is one of the best cards in the set.
yeah.
Um. Now I'm going to keep us in the druid train, but I wanna say I just want to bring us to our second druid card to keep us ending around the time we planned. So Chicken, tell us about our second druid card that we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, this one may make me seem a little crazy. I think Cecily, I don't know. I feel like I'm the only one who thinks Cecily of the Fake Court is like a card that is remotely playable at all. Um I think that this card is actually like strong enough to go in a druid deck. I don't think Death Rattle Druid is a strong enough deck. Just not enough powerful death rattles. But I think this card just on curve is quite good. Just reducing, just like being a taunt that your opponent has to push through, and then drawing what is likely another big minion and getting a big cost reduction on it. I think um, is just a powerful effect. I don't think this card is like broken or anything, but I think at 95 out of 135, it is. I think it should be a little bit higher. If not like I don't know, maybe top half of the set. I don't know. I've everyone everyone I've talked to about this makes me feel like has made me feel like insane for thinking that, but I don't think it's like that crazy of an idea.
Hmm. Now, I'm going to pair this with base card because I think they kind of go hand in hand a lot at the time. Base, what is your final underrated card?
We got Hedge Maze, which, hey, I'm with you, chicken. This is the card that makes it so Cecily might be something. And it's really funny because they are ranked 95th and 96th by the community, one apart right there together, way down there. But like, this is the chance that Death Rattle Druid needs. Like, they do have some pretty impactful Death Rattles, and on big bodies that have to be dealt with. But this makes it so that now you trigger them at the same time to actually like um, put the pressure on immediately. So you could play like a big druid that like the only you might only run the Widow Blue Seedsman as like your cheap minion, and then like you got Topior, you got the two draw Death Rattle draw minion, you got Cecily, you got the big rush thing, um, and so like the only bad hit off Cecily is Widow Bloom, which like okay, I'm still fine playing that, especially for that, and then like hitting Topior off of Cecily is disgusting.
Yeah.
I think this has a shot.
Before we open to discussions on Cecily, Hedge Maze, and still Topiar, if anyone has anything to say about that very busted card, I want to ask you, Based, what is Druid looking like? Is Druid really as scary as it seems right now?
Yeah, it's got really efficient ramp. It's got great defensive tools. Like it's it's looking like probably deck to beat out the gate. And it's in my opinion, especially with getting something as broken as to purely you can just throw into almost any druid deck and just makes the deck better. Um, so I'm thinking we're probably going to see it just stay with ramp and like Kazakhstan for the time being, but it's got other options now. I think that it can very validly go for. They're probably outclassed by Kazakhstan, but we'll see.
Fair?
I think I mean, I don't know if I would say that Druid has efficient like super efficient. They have efficient removal
For
once you are
druid,
able to hit turn 7. I think before that you might be getting steamrolled by like imp decks. I
yeah,
I think
Yeah, then
like
you only have Dark Panther and Spammy Arcanist and Druid of the Reef and
I mean
what else?
yeah.
Park
Natural
Panther and Druid of
causes.
the Reef. Okay, let's not get it twisted. Park Panther and Druid of the Reef are not good cards. Like
Oh,
they
Coldshire and
are.
Null, you usually have a big hand. That
We
one works.
it's the best druid's ever had.
Yeah, and Druid. I mean, Druid is just a card with a deck with, sorry, a class with bad removal. It's just
Yeah,
Yeah, it
um
definitely has bad removal, but it's not no
like
removal.
It's
yeah,
up there with Paladin until you get
it
to
has
equality.
like I don't know. I find if you look at the Druid cards in a vacuum, um the only card you would say that is good removal in any other class is like Scale of Onyxia, and then everything else is just really mediocre.
yeah. But like
Um
we're not judging Rogue by its AOE.
Yeah, but that's because like Rogue does a ton of other things really well. I mean, I think I don't know. My
Altmark Cup
prediction
is
is
an
that we're gonna
AoE.
be my prediction is that we're gonna be in a fast meta, and that alignment alignment or like other slow druids are gonna be kept sufficiently at bay. I don't think they're gonna like break the game or anything. I'm certainly gonna try them because I love alignment druid. And I love like popping off with Anaconda, and now we have even more nature spells and nature spell synergy. So I'm certainly gonna play it a ton. I just don't think it's gonna break the game.
I think it's going to dominate day one, and I think that there's a decent shot that a lighter meta exists where alignment druid is not the best thing you can do because it gets steamrolled by imp block. I think that it's going to be. Uh, I think that there's going to be like one or two classes that can beat it badly enough that you're not going to want to play it in Conquest. And like in LHS, you just instantly alignment druid into the lineup.
Sure. let's move into our final card and class of the night. Nails, what is it?
We've got Collateral Damage as my underrated card. I don't think the card's incredible, but it's rated 122 out of 135. What I like about the card is that it gives you lines into Alignment Druid. A decent amount of the time, the Quest Hunter versus Alignment Druid matchup is just like you don't kill them in time and they play alignment. And having a counterpunch that you can throw when you're on one card per turn is nice. If they drop Girl Boss and Ixia and you get to play collateral damage to push 15 off of that, it's you can very plausibly get your opponent to 15 or 17 or whatever and have collateral damage hero power be lethal. A lot of the time, I think that in Conquest you're going to be banning it, but I think it's pretty usable. Like, probably not as more of a one-up, but it was rated so low that if it's a card that we're considering running in a deck, that it is quite underrated. If it's a card, if it's like in a meta deck, like Questioner is probably still a meta deck, and I think that this merits some consideration for inclusion.
I mean, this with Terror Coil is pretty good.
Yeah, it's just kind of a full board clear, and Hunter actually just generally doesn't have full board clears. Like against a decent number of boards, not like that many of them, but it's like against some boards that might exist on turn 8. I'm trying to like rein it in before I say this sentence, but it can sometimes be twisting nether with upside.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's just like a lot of reach for Quest Hunter.
Fair.
It like yeah, I think that the card is like way better than people are saying and might be playable.
Fair.
It's also probably broken in rogue, but that's like that's not really what we're rating cards on, and everything's
No.
broken in rogue.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I want to ask you the question I ask after we see the last card in every class: is Hunter viable? This new expansion.
Yeah, I think that it got a couple of good cards. Betty Chest is just a very solid one drop. Like you just play it and you doggy biscuit either the first half or the second half, and it does some stuff. I think that Spirit Poacher is a nice 2-drop to follow up your 1-drop. Some other people think Wild Spirits is good. I'm not too into it, but more power to him. Castle Kennels is a solid enough card. I think that like Hunter got some good pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of the cards are being overrated, but I think that it got some nice additions to decks that currently exist. I think we still want to play Revive Pet Harpoon Gun, and so we're not really interested in summoning a bunch of beasts to mess up that synergy.
Sure.
But um, like Castle Kennels is just a really nice addition to Beast Hunter.
Think is that anything you want to add about Hunter or collateral damage?
I mean, I think Nails pretty much said what there is to say about collateral damage, and I agree with basically all of it. Hunter, though, I think is now just the 3-drop class. You just get to choose which of your 3-drops you're trying to enable and build around, and you can't do them all. You have Harpoon Gun, you have the Naga spell that makes the 2/3/3 piranhas. The you have the Wild Spirits. And like those are the cards that when you play them on turn 3 are going to win you the game if you can enable the synergy. And I think that a lot of like finding the best hunter deck is going to be figuring out which of those payoffs you want to hone in on, and then just trying to make sure that you work it in. And I think it's incredible that naming Hunter 3 mana cards, Aim Shot wasn't even one of the first ones that came to mind, but that's still there too. And, I think that you can probably get 3 of those 4 cards in your deck and end up with a good Hearthstone deck. And it's just trying to figure out
Sure.
which way you want to go in getting those there.
Sure. Any final thoughts on Hunter collateral damage before we move into our quick question segment?
I'll just say it does not work the way you want it to with Twin Bow Terror Coil. It looks for another 3 targets on the second cast if things died the first time, not just like a piercing shot.
Okay. Okay. It is
Yeah,
still
that card would
really
be
good.
very good if it pushed
Oh yeah,
Push
30
18.
damage against a 1/1.
yeah.
It would be
We would
great
be running
against
that in,
tokens.
yeah. But yeah, it should pretty efficiently clear top amount of boards. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to clear boards, but like even if you had like 3 minions on the board, it wouldn't hit the second time for 18. Unfortunately, that would have been dope though. That
It
would, I
does.
think, make it seriously good.
It does hit Click Hawker's hero for 10 damage though, and
Oh, that's pretty
is
neat.
nice.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, works like explosive.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, let's take a look at some tier 1 decks as our first quick question. I'm just going to go one by one of you and ask you, what is a tier 1 deck? So to start, Chicken, tell me, what is going to be a new tier 1 deck for you?
Yeah, believe it or not, I think Miracle Rogue with Necrolord Draka is going to be a very, very powerful deck. I think it will. I mean, I think Rogue's removal is good enough that you can keep the aggro decks at bay, and you're faster than a lot of the control or other combo decks around. Not that there are too many combo decks around right now, but I think if some come up, you are probably just much faster. And you also don't have to necessarily be a combo deck. You can set up like Sinstone Graveyard early on in your turns, and then on the turn you pop off with Necrolord Dronka. You can also summon a massive minion. You can just set up like a 16 minion on the same turn, so your opponent has to heal, remove your weapon, and remove your board on like turn 6. And obviously it doesn't happen on turn 6 every time, but like even doing that on like turn 7 or 8 is still a pretty tall ask. Yeah, it just seems insane. Like we have serrated bone spike. I think Door of Shadows is another card that will help a lot with that.
Hmm.
Just like drawing like potentially a second prep or a second shadow step just seems really insane to me, just to get more combo procs. Even a second serrated bone spike is absurd. So there's just so many good things we can do.
Fair. Dankestad, what is a tier 1 deck for you?
I'm really scared of imps, and I think that I'm going to hide behind my Snowfall Guardians. So I'm going to play some minions and try to evolve them early to get ahead on board, and then I'm going to freeze the board repeatedly later. I think that the best evolved shaman decks aren't going to do the tiny toys and convincing disguise thing, and are just going to play muck pools and Vash and the other strong early game that just is incidentally good, and then just lock out the game the way Control Shaman does now. So I think that little evolve package is where I'm looking to be for Shaman.
Nice. I hope not, but Nails, what is going to be a tier 1 deck for you?
Um, I actually don't think it will be a tier 1 deck. I think that Implock will be a tier 0 deck. I think that the stats that it cheats out are completely unfair, and uh, it draws way too many cards, and just the package is OP. Will be nerfed. Heard it here. Definitely not first. This is the coldest of cold takes, but yeah, Imp Warlock will be dominant in its current state until it gets nerfed.
Based, what is going to be a tier 1 deck?
We're going back to aggro DH. We're gonna go fast. We're gonna draw. More realistically, we're gonna draw like 4 or 5 cards off the magnifying glaive. But hey, it's okay because our opponent's gonna die real quick. We just have to make sure we're getting just enough draw to get through the deck, and then make sure the rest is low curve. Does mean we're probably dumping our good friend Steno, but
Yeah.
I think Steno still goes in that deck. You tempo it more aggressively, but
yeah,
um,
I can definitely see that. If we're gonna play, it's just you throw it down, and also like we have the 0 mana dispose of evidence. Steno with that's pretty great. But how do you feel
yeah.
about predation? Think we keep predation with that though?
I'm not totally sure what the deck looks like. I could see it. I think it's probably a cut because we don't have you have to draw it with an Naga or it's bad, and so
Yeah.
Probably is a cut. But
Yeah.
Yeah, Steno is not going to be doing broken stuff, but I think it's still one of the 30 best cards in the deck.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's true.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on to our second question. What is the best art? What was the best art of the set? And Dankistad, why don't you go first?
Well, definitionally, it's got to be creepy painting. First off, this card's literally art. Not the only one here to make that observation, so there's that. I also really enjoy how if you get close in the picture, you can see that the eyes have actually been cut out of the painting and that someone back there is like looking around, like trying to see what's going on. I think it just like kind of got the right sort of campy murder mystery vibe going for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Sure. Chicken, what is the best art?
I think it's Service Bell. I haven't seen the card be played, but I think like the idea of like ringing a bell with a card is very funny. I hope like I hope like when you play the card, it has a really nice ringing noise. Also reminds me of when a certain character on a certain meth cooking show rings a bell, and yeah, no, I just really like the card art in general.
Nice. Next best art based.
Easy Murlocula, best art, best flavor of a card ever. It's just the best. Nothing bad you can say about that card, other than it costing 1 more mana before being infused than it should. But so good.
And Nails, best art.
I wanted to say creepy painting, but I like the Feybiggin. I like the other person to the side of him that's just giving him the side eye because he's at the buffet, and I think they're like a waiter or waitress or something, and yeah, just giving him the side eye because he's eating all the cakes and stuff. I think the card art's kind of cool.
Now, moving us to our final question. What's the worst card of the set? Nails, go ahead.
My choice for the worst card of the set is Criminal Lineup. I think it's really good when you cast it on Mr. Smite in Rogue, and I think that is the only time it's ever good.
Fair. Based, what is the worst card in Standard?
Tone tampering. So bad. Why? Why do I care about shuffling cards in my deck if I have no cards in hand?
It's Broken and Wild.
We're gonna get some weird, ridiculous discard payoffs down the line, and then this will be good.
Sure.
It is Broken and Wild, right? With Nostradamus Imp.
Has to be.
Like that seems
Maybe.
stupid powerful, but yeah, it's completely unplayable in Standard, of course.
Yeah, maybe in wild. Yeah, I could see that.
Duels. Yeah.
Ooh, no, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to play this and like shuffle a 1 mana Malagos into your deck, and then top deck the Malagos, and then you're in business.
Gotcha.
So, after tome tampering, we have Chicken. What is your vote for the worst card of the set?
Yeah. I think it's Anima Extractor. I think this card is like glacially slow for a tempo deck. Pretty weak stats for the cost in this day and age. It's Armor Smith, but you don't have Risky Skipper anymore. Yeah, if you play this on turn 2, it's just awful. Just so bad. I mean, you maybe like you buff twice if you're lucky, or your opponent can just kill it in other ways. Even if you buff twice in hand, like doesn't really do that much. Probably like it's really just I don't know. It seems like such an arena card or something, or like a card that needs way more support to be good.
Fair. And last but not least, Dankestad. What is the worst card in the set?
Well, I know I said earlier in the show I was contrarian, but for once, myself and the community at large agree. It is Sin-Fueled Golem, which was actually rated 135 out of 135 by the Coin Concede community. And the only reason this card exists is to nerf Evolve Shaman when you try to evolve Tiny Toys, so that you're very sad when you get a 7 mana 2/2.
Oh,
Luckily, you evolve into 6 drops and not 7 drops.
Oh,
oh,
but you're not playing Convincing
Oh,
Disguise, Chicken?
yeah, no, convincing disguise gives you 7 drops.
yeah, we don't play Primordial Wave
It gives +2.
Wait, it gives +2?
after
Yeah.
infuse. Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay, maybe Evolve Shaman is good. Okay, maybe. Is anyone saying this?
So, I think that is it for us tonight. Just a reminder for everyone that none of our opinions here constitute crafting recommendations, of course. If you want to craft something, I don't know, do it because you want to. If you don't want to craft something, don't do it because you want to. We're not your supervisors. We don't care. But um, that said, that is it for us. Feel free to comment on anything you think we missed. We're happy to hear. I'm sure we have time chatting while we say goodbye here. If you message something, we'll be doing our best to remember or to answer and remember if it's interesting. But thank you so much for joining us. Next week we have team reveals incoming. So we have the new set on Tuesday, and I believe it is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday that we're going to be having the team reveals. I know Saku has a great crew prepared for those. Let me check who is joining him. I know some of them. Well, I don't know where he posted it. I know he has a lot of people, and it's going to be a really good one. I know. So on Thursday, there's going to be Pro and A and Wild with Dank's dad, Ron Mexico, and Wild 9. On Friday, there's going to be Hero and Legacy team reveals with Bone Master, Rebob, and Kurt Reynolds. And last but not least, on Saturday, we have Pro EU team reveals with Geranium Battle and NL Bouncy Night. So, a lot of stuff to see next week. We will be back the week after with Heart Center and with basically full content stride that we always do. Um, yeah. With that said, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and have a good night, everyone. And thank
Good
you,
night.
Face Dink, Dank's Dad, Nails, and Super Chicken, one more time for the great opinions and for joining me tonight.
Mhm.
Right on.
So it may not be crafting advice. This is the official view of THL as the organization. So you better pay attention to the cards that we said were good and bad.
Just
No,
craft and block. It's getting nerfed. You get your dust back.
If you craft Burden of Pride, please mention me in your support email to Blizzard.
Minus 400 death.
we actually cannot endorse that one opinion on that one card. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and craft whatever you would like. Draka's probably a good choice. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Pelagos as well.
Also,
you will not be spending dust on those cards. It is true.
Mighty will be doing the EU Pro review, which is incredible. Super happy to get Mighty involved.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
That is pretty hype.
Very hyped, yeah.
Nice. So we'll have quite a crazy week. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll all see each other on ladder next week. Any final words anyone want to say? I was going to cut without it, but I feel like I should open for final words.
Yeah,
Nope.
I'm very excited for the expansion. I mean, I personally I love when expansions are very high power level and are generally a bit faster. Um, so yeah, I feel like this has kind of hit both the things that I like a lot, and I think it'll be a ton of fun.
I could say thank God Voyage is done. I am excited for this set in particular, but literally anything else is an improvement, and this stuff looks pretty exciting. I'll be happy to try out a lot and hopefully win some games with Secret Rogue and Skeleton Mage before people figure out what's good.
I got nothing. Said it all.
Nice.
Let's go home.
All right.
Thanks for coming out, friends.
Thank you all for coming out and have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.